Hi, everybody. For today's Read Aloud, I chose a fairy tale because we're going to be talking about fairy tales a lot this week. And I chose a fairy tale that some of you might not know. We all know fairy tales like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, or The Gingerbread Man, The Three Little Pigs, Little Red Riding Hood, The Three Billy Goats Gruff. I know you guys all know these because we've read each and every single one of these in class. Even if it wasn't this particular book, we've read versions of this fairy tale in class. This one we did not read in class, and you may or may not know this story. It's called Rumpelstiltskin. This one is adapted by Mara Albertine and illustrated by Loretta Shower. Let's dive right in. Rumpelstiltskin. There was once a foolish miller whose pride and joy was his beautiful daughter Isabel. She was sweet and gentle and adored by all. The miller was so proud of Isabel that he boasted about her day after day to anyone who would listen. Tulips start to bloom when my daughter sings, bragged the miller. When Isabel catches raindrops, they turn into butterflies. My daughter can even spin straw into gold. Soon word reached the king, who rode to the village to hear the miller's amazing tales. Gold from straw? The king cried greedily. How clever! I command you spin for me tonight. Wait! There's been a terrible mistake, shouted Isabel, but it was too late, and she was carried off to the castle. There, in the highest tower, was a small wooden spinning wheel and a mountain of straw. Spin me my gold, ordered the king, or I shall throw you into the royal dungeons. Poor Isabel tried everything she could think of. She pedaled the wheel and she twisted the straw. She pushed and she pulled, but nothing worked. And as the stars began to twinkle, Isabel started to cry. If only there were someone who could help me, she wept. Suddenly, there was a dazzling flash of light, and poof! A strange little man appeared. He had a sharp, pointy face and a glittering golden cape. I can spin straw into gold, the little man smirked, and I will help you for a price. But I'm just the miller's daughter, whispered Isabel. I have nothing to give. Here's my plan, he said. Tonight I will spin your gold. But one day, when you have riches beyond your dreams, I shall return. You must promise me my pick of treasure then. Yes, anything, Isabel agreed gratefully. So the little man sat down at the wheel. Whir, whir. Around it spun, making coins and crowns and trinkets and trophies until the room glittered with gold. You saved me, sighed Isabel. How will I ever repay you? Just don't forget your promise, laughed the little man, and with that he vanished. In the morning the king returned. He was delighted. What glorious gold, he cheered. You truly are a wonderful girl. You must come and live in my castle. I'd like you to meet my son, Prince Herbert. Unlike his father, Prince Herbert was handsome and kind. He and Isabel fell in love at once. Soon wedding bells rang out across the land. The years passed, and the happy couple were blessed with a beautiful baby boy, Prince Hugo. They were so happy, in fact, that Isabel forgot all about the funny little man. Until one stormy night, as the lightning flashed, poof, the little man appeared again. It's me, my pretty one, he cackled. I'm here for the treasure you promised. What treasure would you like? Isabel asked. Gold? Silver? A diamond necklace? No, sneered the little man. I want something even more precious. I want him. And he pointed right at Hugo. No, cried Isabel in horror. You can't take my darling baby. Very well, the little man purred. Then how about a game? If you can guess my name before 3 nights have passed, you can keep your baby. And chuckling, the little man leaped into the air and vanished. Don't worry, my love, called Herbert, rushing over. That horrid man will never take dear sweet Hugo. On the first night, Isabel guessed all the names she's ever heard. Nick, Ned, Norbert, Willie, Wally, Weatherby. No, 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 giggled the little man. That's not my name. The second night, Isabel and Herbert were up until dawn thinking up new names. Is it Bumble Knuckle? Grumble Grunt? Wiggle Boo? No, 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 cheered the little man, not even close. Isabel was desperate. I can't think of any more names, she cried. Then we must find out this little man's secret, said Herbert. I have a plan. So the next morning, Herbert set out in search for the little man. He rode through the village, over the hills, and deep into the forest, but the little man was nowhere to be found. Then, as the sun was setting in the woods, he saw a flash of a golden cape. Herbert hid behind a tree and watched as the little man danced around a fire, singing, The queen will never win this game, Rumpelstiltskin is my name. That's it, Herbert whispered, and he rushed back to tell Isabel. That night, the little man appeared one final time. This is your last chance, my pretty one. Let me think, said Isabel. She frowned and scratched her head. Could it be Rumpelstiltskin? Doom and darkness, how did you guess? Shrieked Rumpelstiltskin, and he howled and he growled and he stomped and he stamped. So hard he crashed right through the floor and fell down, 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 deep into the royal dungeon below. Rumpelstiltskin was never seen in the kingdom ever again. Hugo grew up to be gentle and kind and adored by all, just like his mother. And so they lived happily ever after. The end. So I'd like to talk about this story. We are really going to be diving deep into fairy tales this week. And so I'd really like to talk about this story through a retell. So characters in this story and most fairy tales are a little bit different than some others. So characters in fairy tales usually are princes, princesses, wizards, fairies, witches, things like that. And so if you look in this book, she was a miller's daughter and she met a king. She married the prince, became a princess. So there's princes, princesses, there's a little wizard. Rumpelstiltskin is like a little wizard. The setting of this story is in a kingdom, in a castle. That's also pretty typical for fairy tales. In the beginning and the middle and the end of this story, there's a lot of fanciful things. So there's, in the beginning of this book, you can tell it says, there once was a foolish miller. And you can kind of get the sense this is taken a long time ago, that this happened a long time ago in the past. A lot of times fairy tales will begin with once upon a time. In the beginning of this story, lots of crazy things happen, right? The king comes, he's going to try to take her, and she's spinning straw. And in the middle of this story, Rumpelstiltskin shows up, he makes all of this gold. She becomes a princess, they have a baby, he comes back and he demands either her baby or that they tell him his name, that they guess his name. They try really, really, really hard and they can't get it until he finds him and figures it out. The end of this fairy tale is a happy ending, which most fairy tales are. There's usually a problem and a solution. So the problem was he wanted her baby. The solution was they got to guess his name and they got to keep the baby at the end of the story, and they lived happily ever after. That is something that happens a lot in fairy tales. So I hope you like this story. Continue on with writing because we're going to be writing some fairy tales this week. Remember, this is the last week that we're going to be doing new learning, so just stay with me, guys. We're almost done. We're going to have so much fun, and next week is all just fun things.